Welcome to Volleyball in Perspective. I'm Scott Harris, your host, and Volleyball in Perspective is designed to spend some time with enshrinees and leaders of the sport, but primarily enshrinees that have come into the Volleyball Hall of Fame. And the 2007 class of enshrinees includes this gentleman right here from Brazil, Carlos Nuzman. Welcome, and how are you?
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure, a great honor to be here in Holyoke, the hometown of volleyball. It's our sport and my sport, and today and during these days will be fantastic to be inducted in the Hall of Fame.
When we talk about the Hall of Fame being here in Holyoke, Massachusetts, the United States, I think one of the things that we have to deal with as a country is that the sport that was developed here is not as well embraced here. But for what you're doing in Brazil as a committee member for his volleyball contingent, things are very good in Brazil for volleyball.
This is true. Yes, volleyball in Brazil, it's the number two in sport in our country. Number one, of course, is soccer.
Soccer.
It's a kind of religion of the country. And volleyball, it's all around the country are playing. It's a fantastic work that we did it there. And now it's very popular.
Maybe you can give some insight. What is it that would make volleyball so popular in Brazil as the number two sport?
Yep. It's a small history. I was a player. I played in the Brazilian national team in 1964 Tokyo Olympic Games and 2 World Championships, 1962, 1966 in the former URSS in Czechoslovakia. And when I finished my career, I started to work as a president of the Brazilian National Federation. And with this, we start to work to change the volleyball in the country. We were in 10th place in the world at that time.
Before we talk about the changes that you helped to bring as the president for international volleyball in Brazil, why, after you played, did you decide to stay on as an administrator?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think as almost every player, I want to be coach, but I feel it's not what my feeling to work in this way. And a lot of officials invite me because I had a kind of personality to try to help the others, to organize the things, even as a player. And on that moment, they invite me because volleyball was not a sport, has a lot of people that can work in this kind of issue. And I accepted.
Now, I'm curious, because I'm certain if you didn't see that there was work to be done, you wouldn't have taken the job.
You are right.
What kind of things did you see that made you say, I need to do this because?
Yeah, now, you are right in your question. But the feeling that during the period that I played in Brazilian national team, I feel that our players were very good, but we couldn't have the practice, the coaches, the preparation as the others, especially at that time in the socialist countries and after in Asia, Japan. And following this idea that believe in our players and believe that I couldn't make a job to give it to the youth of our country a preparation that they couldn't develop and arrive as today.
Now this is interesting because I was reading about you and I realized that a lot of what makes Brazilian volleyball really spin and succeed is that you don't just have a junior organization, but you have youth. So how young are you starting between the youngsters and then the juniors and then the men and women? How young do you go?
Yeah. When I start in the position of the president of Brazilian Volleyball National Federation, I understood from my side that we needed to have the youth practicing. And on that time, the basketball in Brazil was very strong. Was twice world champion, and 2 bronze medals in the Olympic Games. And all the youth, they went to the basketball. I say, without the competitions for the youth, we are killed. And then I proposed to the International Volleyball Federation to organize the first junior or youth, junior, the first name, Junior World Championship, men and women, and I organized in Brazil in 1977. And after this, I proposed to organize the youth, then to start in the world level with 14 years old. With this, we could attract the youth to play volleyball. And we give the preparation in the same level that we are giving for the national team, for the junior, and for the youth. This was, if we could say, the secret that Brazil kept the volleyball hegemony in the world since the last 30 years. I mean 20 years. Because with this, we bring the best coaches in the world to give lessons for our coaches in all of the country.
All right, so is it wrong for me to believe that the fact that volleyball is the #2 sport in Brazil is because you decided to make sure that kids, before they all ran to basketball, had that alternative? You helped make volleyball the #2 sport in your country.
That's it. That's it's the history. That's the people in basketball ask me several times to become president of basketball.
To try to make it #2.
Yeah, but I'm a former volleyball player, and my heart is in volleyball. But this was the history of the development of volleyball in Brazil. From one side, we prepare the coaches to teach the youth and junior players all over the country. And then when they come to the national team, we had a preparation exactly as they organize and give in Europe and they give in Asia. And then this born the Brazilian volleyball school in the world. It was exactly the confirmation of this on the end of the 80s years and on the beginning of the 90s. Because in 80s was USA the leading volleyball in the world. Twice gold medalist in the Olympic Games, world champion, gold medal in the World Cup. And Brazil started the era in 1992 in Barcelona Olympic Games with a gold medal.
Now, you guys have had success both indoors and outdoors in international volleyball.
Yes.
If you take a look, I mean, you spent time on the Olympic Committee. You have also spent time with the Pan American Games. I mean, all of this high level of international sport. Are there some obstacles that you had to fight your way through to be able to make some of the changes and get some of the things that you needed to help make Brazilian volleyball #2?
Yes, a lot.
Share a couple with me.
First, they told me you are crazy.
That's a tough one.
Top one. I told it to the Minister of Education that that time we don't had the sport minister, and I told him I need for this first junior world championship, all of the players in the country they come to Rio for men's, and Belo Horizonte is a city close of Rio for women's to stay 1 year. But we need that they study. And for them study, we needed to transfer them for colleges in Rio and Belo Horizonte and keep the place a time to study and play volleyball. And after this year, they needed to be back to the cities and keep the place in the same school. And the minister say, yes. That was one of the keys, the obstacles that we won. And the second is to give for the families, for them to believe that this program was a program for not only for them, to come for a different way how the volleyball will grow in Brazil. And then I needed to speak with the father and mothers, with all of them to explain what we want to do. And they are not leaving the studies. They keep the studies, but they will play volleyball as a second priority after the studies.
Sure.
And this was what we developed. It was funny because after the Los Angeles Olympic Games, the final was USA and Brazil. US won. And this generation that started in the 1977 was almost finishing in Los Angeles Olympic Games, and the other they finished in Seoul in 1988 when the USA became twice gold medalist. And the press asked me, and after these guys, this generation, I told them, is born the future Olympic champion generation of Brazil. We have a very strong youth and junior. They become world champion. And I left the presidency in 1997. And I left with Brazil world champion, men and women in all categories, the youth and junior. And the base of all of this are the youth for any country. Because we had the strong examples. Japan, 1972. We had Poland, 1976. We had the USA in the 80s. And all of them, they couldn't keep the level and the new players, because one thing they miss, they forgot the youth. And the youth is the secret to develop volleyball to stay in this position in not only Brazil but in the world.
So you went to your critics and you had to get over them thinking that you were a crazy man, but you knew that if you started young enough and you built the right foundation, you'd have world dominance and success. Once you got there, what were your countrymen saying to you then, once they realized that you really knew it and you weren't a crazy man? How were they treating you now?
The other sports need to follow volleyball. This is how volleyball, well organized, well structured, and then the others needed to put the eyes in this organization to follow, to develop. And some of them now are doing this. And I'm happy because as president of Brazilian Olympic Committee, we bring these ideas, we bring the system of preparation for the Olympic level, for the other sports they are developing. And it's a very good surprise to saw this growing and developing.
So you have helped to breed world champions in volleyball. You are being recognized by the Volleyball Hall of Fame as a leader. How does that honor feel?
It's a great emotion. It's emotion because sometimes in the life we arrive in the road. You have two ways to go. And we needed to choose. As a lawyer, my profession, I'm a lawyer. And sometimes when you have a trial, you need to choose this way that law give you a good chance, and this way that the law also give you a good chance. But at the end of these two roads, only when you find the trial, you know. And this was the same. I think I choose the good road. And this moment to be inducted in the Hall of Fame as a leader is fantastic, because as a player and as official, it's not very usual to have.
When you talk about roads that you could have taken, if you didn't take the volleyball road for sport or for profession, for business, would it have been just the legal road, or is there another sport that you could have ventured that would have taken you away from volleyball and all of that?
I just, even now, I have my private lawyer office. I work in both during all the life. But if you are not working in volleyball, I don't know what may be indifferent. in different situations on the life, but I think in the sport I will be, because the sport we need. I usually to mention that we need to thank you to sport. I thank a lot for the sport, and I thank you very much because I receive a lot from sport, and now we need to give back for the youth what we received. And this is a moment history, I want to tell you one thing that you cannot answer, but you didn't know. That's the reason. I had a problem in my life. I lose my mother with 10 years old, and saw my mother dying in an accident, in a fire accident. And was the volleyball that put me on the road. And with this, maybe I can say I not changed the personality, but I form my personality in the sport. That's the reason I thank you for the sport, and that's the reason that I receive from sport, I give back to the sport, and always thinking the youth of my country.
I want to thank you for sharing that. And I don't know if you can answer the question. I have a little time left, but I want to know,
yes,
for everything that you've accomplished, not just for yourself, but for the sport in your country, is there something else that you can do for volleyball? I mean, you've done so much. Yeah. Is there something else that you can do for volleyball?
In volleyball, I think my career as official, they finished when I started the president of the Brazilian Olympic Committee. But I keep my eyes on volleyball, trying that the Brazil they can follow this road that they are doing. But I feel that volleyball in the world that can come in the future if well officiated in a different level. To put the volleyball as one of the prime sports in the world, because it's fantastic. It has some advantages. One of them, they have not a personal contact. This sometimes bring injuries, bring some fights, and volleyball not. Volleyball, it's a plastic sport. You are interviewing a lot of these fantastic players, and all of them, they are very, very close friends all around the world. Then this family, I think it can teach in the other continents how this can develop, as you have the examples of the basketball, the NBA give the word, or ice hockey, of the soccer, of American football. Then I think the volleyball can, and I will be able to help on the moment they think they can help them.
The Hall is a great fraternity for the Enshrinees that have done something for this sport. Your country should be very, very proud of you. And I can understand why the selection committee elected to bring you in as a leader of the sport. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Everybody, Brazilian Hall of Fame nominee Carlos Nuzman, a member of the class of 2000, the International Volleyball Hall of Fame.